What's up, Admirals? Losty here, and today a long-awaited USS ultra-rare event is upon us featuring Essex Class CV-10 Yorktown, or known in-game as Yorktown II. Luckily, Yorktown was rather forgiving on my cubes this time, a gesture much appreciated unlike a number of her other UR predecessors. This is officially the second UR Carrier released into the game over 2 years after the very first UR Carrier Shina's release, so I am definitely excited to see another emerging UR Carrier that could maybe change up the existing best-in-slot carrier fleet compositions. To give a little backstory on carrier compositions, ever since the release of Haku in PR4, the best-in-slot carrier fleet has not really changed, with Shina and Haku being the two dominant carriers in that fleet, with the third carrier being occupied by either Enterprise, praying for a 70% double damage per airstrike, or Ark Royale Retro, with a slow and a 25% double damage per airstrike. This carrier fleet stood significantly over the second best in the slot, which would have been Shokaku, Zuikaku, and Taiho, followed closely by the third fleet, which would have been Essex, Intrepid, and Independence. With the emergence of Yorktown II, though, many are hoping that she would fill that last slot next to Shina and Haku to make up a super solid rainbow carrier fleet. To see how well Yorktown II fits in that role, let's address Yorktown's unique skills and put that together with her stats to predict how exactly she will perform in that CV fleet and in a mixed fleet. Starting with the skills, the Fighting Lady, 3 seconds after battle start and every 12 seconds afterwards, or until the target is destroyed, sends a recon of 81 Sky Raiders, which is the UR plane in the shop, to mark one random enemy, decreasing its anti-air by 6%. When the marked enemy is destroyed, heal Yorktown for 3% of her max HP up to 5 times per battle. Additionally, if she has an Eagle Union aircraft equipped, as she launches an airstrike, launch an additional level 10 special airstrike. This skill is more defensive in nature, as I understand. The healing is really good for her own self-sustain, and the additional special airstrike adds a little bit more damage to her, which is always good. This does, however, require that she has an Eagle Union aircraft equipped, which makes the new UR fighter a really good choice as a plane to put on her. Second skill, Waltzing Beyond Tragedy. If 3 or more Eagle Union ships are afloat at the start of battle, increase self-accuracy and aviation by 15%. Every 18 seconds launches a special barrage and decreases self-detection gauge by 10 over 5 seconds. Cross-fleet skill, staple of UR ships. The first 4 battles of the other fleet increase the firepower of the main fleet Eagle ships by 6% and cross-fleet barrage at 20 seconds into battle. A fairly standard self-buff skill, but as I will say, this could be one of the shortcomings of York in the BIS Carrier fleet, as I will explain later. Otherwise, the special barrage and lower detection gauge could lead to a nice extra damage bonus, and the cross-fleet buff is always welcome to help the BIS battleship fleet, specifically NJ, pack a little bit more punch. Third skill, the Eagle soars free. When launching an airstrike, decrease the loading time of the next airstrike of Yorktown class by 10% and other Essex class by 8%, does not stack with itself. Increase all damage dealt of Yorktown and Essex class carriers by 10%, and when these carriers launch an airstrike, launch an additional interceptive airstrike. This skill is very powerful, but only for York and Essex class carriers. 10% all damage is a really strong skill, but limited only to Yorktown and Essex class, which significantly reduces the flexibility of this ship. Moving on to her stats, at max, Yorktown II has 458 aviation, which puts her aviation just in between Shina at 443 and Haku at 462. Reload-wise, York is at 137, which runs her slightly faster than Shina and Haku, both at 128. York's planes are flexible on the third slot with fighter, dive, and aircraft slot set. At plane count 243 with efficiencies at 120, 135, 135. Plane loadout and efficiencies alone, this is comparatively slightly worse than Shina and Haku. Putting this information together, what can we predict about her performance in the best-in-slot carrier fleet? Well, unfortunately, she is not projected to make the best-in-slot carrier fleet perform significantly better for a number of reasons. There's a lot of anti-synergy happening as Shina only buffs IJN aviation, while York only buffs herself in all damage. Yorktown's second skill will also not play into effect, mainly because the Vanguard fleet will comprise of at least one IJN ship, usually in Kazagumo, with Sirius and HMS ship, and the third Vanguard slot is floating as optional. You will need to keep one IJN ship in the Vanguard to ensure 3 IJN ships for Shina's buff to take place, which benefits 2 carriers. You will need to keep Sirius in the fleet as she buffs the aviation of all carriers, which means there will not be 3 Eagle Union ships for Yorktown's self-accuracy and aviation buff to happen. Yorktown's performance under this condition is likely comparable to a double damage Enterprise or Arc, which means the best-in-slot carrier fleet is not likely to experience better peak damage, but will 100% be more consistent in damage output, which is still a nice upgrade. Alternatively, Yorktown will obviously thrive the most in an Eagle Union CV team, with the 2 best pairs being Essex and Enterprise. Hornet 2 is another likely potential to either replace Essex or Enterprise once maxed. A CV fleet like this, including a Baltimore in the Vanguard for additional USS CV aviation buff, would likely outperform the original second best fleet in Zuikaku, Shokaku, and Taiho, but will still come short of the Shina, Haku, and Arc fleet that is left over. The best-in-slot mix fleet remains unchanged in my opinion with the emergence of Yorktown II. York's kit does not benefit from a mixed fleet scenario. Her cross buffs target only her own class CVs. I would recommend sticking with the Shina, Haku, Musashi, or NJ as your single mix fleet max damage at this time. Overall, I do think Yorktown is still a welcomed addition to the best-in-slot carrier fleet, although she's likely not to increase the max damage potential of the existing CV fleet. I predict she will add consistency to it without lowering its damage potential. She also opens the door to running a very strong Eagle Union only carrier fleet with even greater potential in the future as more Essex Class carriers eventually get released into the game. These are my current predictions for the performance of Yorktown II as of day 1's release. Over the next few days, as I max Yorktown 2's skills, I will be able to collect more practical battle data to either verify or adjust these predictions, so stay tuned. Until next time, good luck fellow admirals in building these glorious ships.